Alright, it's time. We gotta talk about the Renewal Grasps in PvP. This is one of those things that, at a base level, is just decent, but then starts to stack with other parts of the subclass kit to compound its utility and spiral dramatically out of control. Now, before we just cut to the chase and start complaining about how OP these things are, let me be upfront with you about the nature of this video. I'm assuming at this point that you're familiar with these things at a base level and that you don't need me to break down all of the math and the numbers and the details on every kind of scenario that you could use these in. There are, a dozen videos excellently made already that do that. I would say check out Cool Guys, for example, to get the deets. I'm going to spend my time in this video talking about the two sides of the argument around these things. We'll talk about everything they do for you and how that list of benefits is so much longer than almost every other exotic in the game and what they can do for you. And by nature, that makes these things rise immediately to the top of the meta. But we'll also talk about the pros that these gauntlets have and how there may be a spot in Destiny for these gauntlets to exist, maybe even in their current form. Some people hold that opinion. You can definitely make an argument supporting their existence. But please, please remember, your opinion on these things and my opinion on these things, they're not facts, right? Discourse dies when people approach conversations from the position that their beliefs about something are rock solid, without fault, free of influence of personal preference, and therefore factual. If you approach this video from that standpoint, where your mindset is rock solid and not malleable, then you will dislike this video. You will dislike half of the things that I say. You'll go straight to the comments and Twitter and Reddit to express it. Let's try to approach conversations about balance instead, like couples counseling maybe, where each party has valid input, valid concerns, and their experiences cannot be immediately hand-waved, right? No progress can be made under those conditions. All right, let's dive into the exotic. In this video, you're going to see gameplay where I turn a 1v3 into a slaughterhouse, like a grown man stepped into a bouncy castle and was out for blood. You'll see me tank 2 shotgun shots, shotgun melees, chaperone headshots, fusion rifle voops, double voops, and even light attacks from enemies in their supers. You can use dusk fields defensively to hold a doorway or a corner when someone is pushing you. You can use them in a neutral gunfight to dramatically reduce the opponent's TTK by putting the dusk field at your feet and then trading shot for shot with your enemy. You can use them offensively to immediately neutralize an enemy barricade or find someone camping a small position of power and basically make it the same thing as dumping gasoline down a beehive in the ground and lighting it on fire. Their stronghold basically becomes a tomb. And when you consider how often other exotic armor pieces affect the outcome of a fight, the Renewal Grasps have an insane amount of uptime in a match. Other exotics can sometimes directly influence maybe a handful of engagements during a match, while the Renewal Grasps can influence, and I'm not exaggerating here, a dozen or more engagements during a match, considering how quickly the Duskfield grenades cool down, and how that cooldown can even be further reduced by equipping various fragments for the Revenant, like the one that gives you a burst of ability regeneration anytime you break a crystal. So you'll often see me break the stasis crystal in my dusk field before moving on in the gameplay. And that's another factor too. The dusk field crystal gets larger when stacked with other parts of the Revenant kit. You can basically throw a crystal up in someone's face when they're pushing you, which breaks their line of sight, reduces their outgoing damage. You can break the crystal in their face, dealing damage. They're slowed, and you're taking reduced damage in addition to the damage reduction that they get slapped with. It is absolutely mind-boggling how many benefits your Revenant receives when you properly build your kit around these gauntlets. But there's also another side to the discussion, and a few things worth noting before we just immediately reach for the Nerf hammer and take a good hard swing. First and foremost, let's consider the fact, this is where some people are going to start getting upset, let's consider the fact that Revenants had basically every part of their kit nerfed. Those nerfs were without a doubt necessary. Their utility was off the charts, and they ran PvP single-handedly for almost a year. Shatter Dive was busted. The sucking and freezing ease and frequency was busted. The shurikens literally had auto-aim and tracking and froze opponents in their tracks. All of those things were broken. All of those things got nerfed, including the Silence and Squall Super. So the Revenant subclass, it got hit hard. It's true. I hated Revenants too, so I did not shed a tear for them. But I completely understand that there are gamers out there who main Revenant. They love the kit. They love the area and pacing control that the Revenant has on the battlefield. It's just what they respond well to in their video gaming, sure. And I respect that. And all the hits that the Revenants took, it's hard with all those hits to want an immediate nerf on something that gave them some love. So I say this not as a Revenant lover, because God knows I am not. I say this as a Sunbreaker lover who had his sunspots nuked into the ground because of an exotic that, you know, most Siegebreakers never got to use before it was nerfed. And I do mean nerfed. Even with it being tied to the barricade now, you're not getting the sunspots up as frequently as you would when it was just tied alone to you taking enough damage to pop your shields. So my shields pop a lot more frequently in a match than my barricades get placed. So I do like having sunspots on command. That is cool, it is good, it is useful, and the Laurel Splendor is still very strong because of it. I never said it got nerfed into the ground, but I do believe that it got nerfed. But that is a different video. What I am saying is this. Most Revenants probably haven't even been able to try these things out yet. We're still pretty early in the season, and there's lots of stuff for average players to be grinding and engaging with. Many Revenant mains probably haven't been able to devote the time to farming lost sectors for these to drop and then build a whole kit around them and then go experiment with them in PvP. I'd hate for some of them to miss out on something so fun. And yeah, I said they're fun. I actually, for the first time in my life, I took my Revenant back to Europa and I unlocked all of the stasis, almost all of the stuff for the stasis kit for Revenant, because I literally did not have a single thing unlocked. I didn't even have Dusk Fields before this DLC came out. I didn't. Before last week, I had nothing done on my Revenant other than completing the Europa campaign and just unlocking the base version of it. So many Rev mains, you know, they haven't had the chance to do all this stuff. I just dove into it, and it was kind of fun. Using these things, they are fun. I think they're busted. Okay, I'm falling off the log there. I think I'm in agreement with most people on that. I think they're busted, but holy crap, are they fun. There are a few things, I mean, there are very few things as satisfying as finding a shotgun or fusion ape on the other team and literally dumping on their whole approach by cutting their damage and slowing their TTK to a grinding halt. I had a flawless title shotgun ape with hundreds of flawless runs on his account, and he had no idea what to do in a quick play match. He tried and tried and tried, just aping with a shotgun. It was his plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on, until he ran out of letters and had to roll over to the Greek alphabet. And he could do nothing. The dust field went down. I started laughing. He started blasting. And he hit the floor from my sidearm before he could even pop my shields. And that brings me to the second part of my but in their defense portion of the video. So, but in their defense, in defense of the Renewal Grasps, these things are a hard counter to a lot of stuff that people are complaining about right now. I mean, people have been moaning about Titans with barricades and overshields. This is a hard counter. When that barricade goes down, your dust field goes out, and they gotta leave. They have to leave, or they're gonna stand there, they're gonna get frozen, and they're gonna be sitting ducks. People have been moaning about fusion rifles, and this is a hard counter. You know, that's gonna take 2 Voops to put you down. People have been complaining about hand cannons and shotguns, and that they're still the dominant force on the field. Dusk Field, it makes the 140 TTK longer, making it require at least 5 shots to put you down. And shotguns, they can't one-bang you, and they have to be followed up with a melee every time, and they have to land just about every part of their buckshot. People have been moaning about invis flanks, and now that they ping the radar, you can drop that Dusk Field if you see the flank coming, and the element of surprise, it's gone for them. Now they're the ones caught in a trap. I mean, there's a lot of cheesy stuff out there that people hate. And the Renewal Grasps, they offer a great new way to play the game that neutralizes those things. And part of me, here's really what it boils down to. Part of me really prefers to have Crucible. I want a Crucible that's more about having lots of options that check and balance one another, rather than just nerfing everything that's strong until we're left with a bland and stale PvP experience. I mean, that's so integral to my argument here that I want to restate that. I prefer a Crucible that's more about having lots of options that check and balance one another, rather than just nerfing everything that's strong until we're left with a bland and stale PvP experience. That's huge for me. That's really the be-all, end-all. And you might argue, okay, well, what's the thing that keeps Renewal Grasps in check? Well, I can tell you this because I played with them a ton this week in order to get the gameplay for this video and to get my position on them. I can tell you that zone control grenades they're the hard counter. So when I throw that dust field down, if somebody throws a solar grenade at me or a vortex grenade at me, it immediately neutralizes the benefits of my dusk field. So that is the hard counter. But I will say I do fall off the log, and I think that they need to be reeled in a little bit. I don't want them to lose all their utility. I think you could target I think I would prefer that they target the uptime. Like the number of times you can use this ability in a match. I think that's the thing that they should target. Not necessarily how powerful it is when you use it, but make sure that you can't use it all the freaking time during the match, right? So at the end of the day, I can see both sides of this argument. I can appreciate what each party brings to the table. I think there's probably a fair middle ground in there somewhere, and hopefully Bungie can find it. I think it's just a matter of time before Bungie addresses these, if not only because of the outcry against them. It's so strong from so many influential voices, as well as from the community as a whole on Reddit and forum posts. So I'd love to hear from you. What would you change about these, if anything at all? If Bungie was going to nerf the Renewal Grasps, what would be your fair middle ground? Sound off in the comments below and let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to drop a like on it and subscribe for additional Destiny content. One awesome way to support me for free is by heading to twitter.com/thetruevanguard and dropping me a follow. I'd love to engage with you all there. I like to weigh in on relevant gaming conversations, post fun clips for your enjoyment, and more. So thanks so much for watching the video. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.